So at the x-intercepts, so for number 1, here's an x-intercept, and that's why I drew the highlighted yellow line. X-intercept, yellow line, x-intercept, drill line. And what that does is that we can draw dashed lines, or I used a highlighter, at the x-intercepts. And what it does is it creates these intervals between the yellow lines. 1, 2, 3, 4. So there's 4 intervals. Okay? And what you need to do there is determine if it's positive or negative. Well, how do you do that? You go in between the lines, and then you're going to multiply them based on where the graph is, if it's above the x-axis. For example, between these 2 yellow lines here, this line is above the x-axis, so this is like a positive number. For example, this might be like positive 2. Down here, this one might be something like a negative number, like negative 5 or negative 6. So 2 times negative 6 gives me a negative number. So I know my graph's going to be like something like negative 12. Over here, this is kind of like a positive. It looks like a positive times a positive, so I wrote a positive up here. And you can even write the symbols above it. In this region, these are both above the x-axis. So class, what's a positive times a positive?
A positive.
A positive number. So you can kind of estimate. So like this might be like 4 times 5. Class, what's 4 times 5?
20.
So maybe my graph something up here. And then I'm going to this last region over here. Maybe over here. Any you can pick any number. So I'm picking out around here. So I have this number here, which is like maybe 8 times, maybe like negative 12. How much is that? Like negative 96, something like this. My graph's going to look like this. And then you're going through the x-intercepts. I gotta go down to here. Now let's see if that matches, because it says graph the cubic function. Well, cubic is an odd, right? Yeah. Odds start down and up. So a couple of hints is that I know that, well, it's cubic, but it's switched around, right? This one starts up and down. That means my A value is negative. That was a common mistake on your last quiz. A lot of students just say the graph's negative. What does negative mean? It has a bad attitude, it's negative, right? Like a negative student or a positive student, you have a positive attitude. You have to be specific. So you're saying your leading coefficient in this problem, your A value is negative. So again, find the x-intercepts, draw your dashed or your highlighter. Here you have the intervals. Within the intervals, you're going to multiply where the graph is. If it's above the x-axis, it's a positive. If it's below, it's a negative, and then you multiply them. Positive times a negative is negative, and then you're going to graph it. You'll also recognize a hint. Look at your signs. What do you notice about the signs? Are they ever the same consecutively? No, they alternate between positive and negatives.